Hello, hello. Hey, yo, what's up? What's good? Bonjour. Welcome to the Any Given Runway show. I'm your host, Randall Carlton Brown. Any Given Runway celebrates the exploration of new cultures by highlighting some of the most artistic, athletic, tenacious, basically unique and interesting people in the world. Everyone has a story, each person a scholar. Welcome to Season 6. No lengthy preamble. Let's get right to it. We have a lovely show for you today with a captivating guest. Author of the new book, Carried Away, TJ Derry joins the show. Carried Away is a visceral, highly cinematic survival novel set off the coast of Sumatra. What begins as a carefree surf trip among friends takes a sudden, harrowing turn when a tsunami strikes, leaving the group stranded and fighting to stay alive. Told through the introspective and often darkly funny voice of Cole, the story explores what remains when modern life is stripped away and nature reasserts itself as the ultimate force. Written with a filmmaker's eye, Carried Away often reads like a motion picture, immersive, visual, and emotionally unflinching. The novel opens with humor and sharp banter, capturing the absurdities of travel, friendship, and fleeting modern romance. But as the journey spirals into survival, those comedic notes give way to something deeper, a meditation on life, meaning, and the strange clarity that emerges when everything collapses. Brutal, tender, disarmingly human. TJ Derry is a filmmaker and commercial director whose storytelling spans film, advertising, and now fiction. His background behind the camera brings a visual sensibility to his writing, while his fascination with resilience, inner conflict, and the search for meaning shapes the emotional core of his work. Carried Away is his debut novel, written over the course of 6 years across coffee shops, coastlines, and moments of creative obsession. Both grounded and somatic, it's a world that mirrors the author's own pursuit of clarity in an increasingly noisy world. I highly enjoyed this book because I felt like I was on vacation with TJ. Carried Away was a great blend of the story of survival, but also the excitement of travel. And I think those two aspects made it for an unforgettable book. TJ is exceptionally gifted at capturing the idiosyncratic aspects of friendship and of describing these gorgeous aquatic locations. On today's episode, TJ and I talk about how he captured the important elements of friendship. We also discuss his writing process and how it changed over time. And lastly, TJ and I discuss how his career as a filmmaker played a role in his writing. This was a fantastic debut novel, and I really hope that TJ continues to write because he's got many stories to tell. You're going to love him. So it's going to bring on filmmaker and now author, TJ Derry, and let's learn.
Before we talk about anything else, this is a special day. I mean, getting to the World Series. How are you feeling right now?
I feel nervous about it, to be honest, because I think LA, for all intents and purposes, is sort of like the benchmark of excellence. I don't know whether or not that, like, I watched them just mop the floor with the Brewers, so it's like, what are we gonna do against that sort of offense? I don't know. And then Ohtani, of course, pitching like a pitching machine. I don't even know what to say to that. But I looked at the stats today, and apparently Guerrero is towering over Ohtani postseason for statistics. So what do you think?
Well, you've got one of my favorite players, and that's Max Scherzer.
Yeah.
Any chance I get to watch him is always great. Psycho Max is great. But yeah, you're right. The Dodgers are just unreal at the moment, and they're peaking at the right time. But it's baseball. I don't know. But I'm happy for you. Were you alive on the first one? Do you remember those?
Oh yeah. The with the Jays, you mean the 92 one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was like a little kid, but that was a seminal moment. I mean, at that point, I was like most small town kids. I was like a baseball fiend, right? That was my sport, and so that just those are like core memories, core moments of my life. And I evolved away from baseball after that, but man, that was special. I'll be honest, I was afraid of the Tigers watching them play the Mariners. I thought they were a better team the whole time. I was like, if Detroit comes for us, we're out. That was what I kept thinking. I love Seattle though. Like, I've done a lot of commercial work there. Like, I've shot a lot of times there, and that town is amazing. I know it's sort of in a weird space right now with it being a sanctuary city or whatever, and things are a little gnarly, but man, the food in that town. And I went to a Seattle, like we went to a Mariners game one day. I was shooting there. We had a day off. We caught a game, and I was like, this is one of my favorite teams. And I wore my Mariner shirt around. Also, I was a huge Nirvana fan when I was a kid. So how can you hate Seattle, right?
How can you hate Seattle, and especially, I think back to NBA Jam, Sean Kemp on NBA Jam, and that's right there.
Yeah.
Great city. It's just
Yeah.
such an awesome time for you right now. You got your Blue Jays. I know hockey is kicking back up, and that's a big part of your life. But eclipsing all of that, we get to talk about a book that you've written. You have a book coming out. So how are you feeling with just the promotion that goes behind it and the fact that you're promoting something that you wrote?
Oh man. I'm pretty nervous all the time. I'd say every day when I wake up and check my email and everything else, I'm tense. I don't, because working in the film industry, I've done a lot of shooting for other people, putting brands on the map, taking whatever, or making a film with other people. This is sort of personal, and I didn't know if I was ever going to put it out. I know that was the intent, of course, at the beginning, but I found myself in a bit of a chess match with my own consciousness, thinking about, because once you put it out, people are going to, well, hopefully read it. And consequently, you're sort of placing I guess your work in their hands for whatever they decide to make of it. And so I wrote the book for me, like specifically. I didn't think that, I mean, I'm not like the type of bet that a publisher is going to make generally. These days it's like, well, we want someone with big social media followings. We want a famous name. We want somebody who's going to guarantee sales. So I didn't even really bother with that. I just sort of thought to myself, it's probably better to put it out than to just leave it on my hard drive. So anyways, that leads me to where we are right now, which is made the decision, found a publicist, and now I'm just sort of clenched up and hoping for the best. It's been interesting, but yeah, daily kind of regrets almost. I'm like, oh man, what have I done?
Well, I think nerves are good, first of all, because it shows that you're doing something cool and it shows that you care. But it's an interesting thing that you mentioned about the difference in you come from a creative background and you have worked with other people's art. And that's one thing. But when it's your own, it's like, wait a minute, is this any good? Where did the idea first come in that you're going to start it? Because again, there's a lot of anxiety, even attempting, a lot of uncertainty, and you need a lot of confidence to start. So where did that idea first start?
So the story goes that I was doing a bunch of travel work, getting around, and there was a lot of flights, and I was getting pretty tired of staring at the back of the headrest at films and stuff. So I was like, I want to find a book. I want to start to read. I hadn't been reading much. And so I think I was in LAX or something like that. And I was in like the Hudson shop. I was looking for a book, and then I went on Apple Books, and nothing. I mean, there's a million amazing books and there's so many things to choose from, but I was looking for something really specific, I think. And none of the stuff I was seeing at least felt like something I would actually want to engage with. There's a lot of really dark content out there. The adventure stuff is great, but it's not really what I was looking for. I wanted to go somewhere I wasn't able to go. And so that was sort of where it started from. I didn't really care whether or not it was any good. I just was like, it would be cool I had written some screenplays, like several screenplays, and I'm like, it'd be cool to try a different format, different medium. And from there, it sort of started. And it's really funny. I wrote like the first page. It took me like a year. No, it didn't take me a year. It took me a while. But I don't, because you're writing in a format that you're not used to. It's like, I can't rely on cameras and audio and sound mix and special effects and stunts and all of the things that you would use to create the feeling that you're looking for. Because in a script, you're like, interior day, guy sits in chair and speaks to, camera. In a book, it's like, it was raining outside. It smelled like coffee, whatever. There's so much to it. And so I was so stupefied by that at the beginning. I'm like, man, I have to tell them so much. And then it's like, well, where's the balance there? Because you actually need them to do part of the weight lift for you, right? So it's like, you don't want to just overwrite and over direct, for lack of a better word. And so it's like, it took me a long time to find that balance. But fast forward to, I think it was 2018 or 19, I landed late in Nicaragua. I was going on a trip, and my cab that I had booked bailed because I showed up late. And so I found this guy. I flagged him down, sketchy dude in like a Toyota Corolla or whatever that looked like it was from the early 90s. And he agreed to drive me down to where I was going. And he was driving at about 110 kilometers an hour through a jungle in the pitch black. It was like 2 a.m. And I got this guy to stop for beers at this gas station because I was kind of freaking out and I was tense. And this guy just like would not let off. And then he started falling asleep, but still driving at like 100 kilometers an hour. And so I pulled my phone out and in the notebook app, I just started typing. And it started with 2 a.m. We stopped at a decrepit gas station. And that's how the actual second chapter leads off, right? That's almost a direct lift. I changed a little bit, but not much. So that's how that started. And so then it was just, okay, I have some sort of like framework from which to bounce from and to sort of lead off with. And then it was like, okay, so now what do I do? And then it was like, I didn't write anything for, I mean, forever. I just stare at the page and be like, I'm out of my depths, like really out of my depths. So that was sort of how it started. Also it was funny, like deciding like first or third person. I don't even know. I realized quickly it had to be first person, but I didn't even know how to write third person. I'm like, when you can jump around from character to scene to me, my brain doesn't work that way. It's too complicated and it's not linear. And so that really settled me a little bit. I'm like, okay, so it's just this guy's perspective and I don't have to like talk about other people and other events and other geographies and times. I can just keep very specific to what he's seeing in front of him. And that kind of helped me a little bit too. But yeah, right off the gate, just out of the gate, just totally out of my depths. No idea what I'm doing.
Very interesting. And I love that you said that you were at a Hudson at airport. Airport bookstore is always the best. They're always my favorite. And nothing reached out to you and you wanted to go somewhere. And I think that was my favorite thing about this book is that it did take me somewhere. I was on vacation. And I was on vacation with you specifically because you weren't just writing this book from afar. You lived it like the story you just told about the cab driver, but all the time in the water, all these stories and experiences from the water. That's part of your life too, right? Tell me about your background of being surfing and all your time on beaches around the world.
Yeah, it started a long time ago. I was living out in Whistler for a bit, snowboarding, and on Vancouver Island, there's a bit of a surf scene in Tofino, and that's where I first started to try to surf. To me, it was always like a romantic idea, like a really cool, like that's the most core board sport you can do. Like that's the source, right? So I was always like interested in that. I was only like 18, 19 at the time, and I didn't grow up near the sea, so I had to get out to Whistler. Me and my girlfriend at the time went out there and we tried to figure out how to surf. And I thought I picked it up really quick. Turns out it's one of the most impossible things ever. But you're surfing whitewater and you're like, oh, I got it. I know how to do this. So anyways, that led off what was a storied career as a surfer, which has taken me everywhere. It's been like, I lived in LA for a little while. I surfed Malibu and the South Bay like every day. I've been to Costa Rica and Nicaragua. It's taken me places that I would never normally have gone. And I think that's part of the allure of it. It's like, like you can go on vacations and you can sit on a beach and get drunk on pina coladas and get sunburn and read and I don't know, go dip in the ocean. But to me, that's not enough. That's not like enough of a foundation for me to want to go somewhere. And so that's how it all started. It's funny, like I listened to some podcasts and they were talking about the writers in the writer's room needing to stop writing. So it was like, I think it was It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And the writer was talking about how this show has drained me for 12 years. I need to go out and see some things, have some things happen to me because I'm out. Like the well's dry, right? So for me, the well was not dry. I had so many encounters, bizarro incidences where I'd be on a trip and being like, oh man, did not see that coming, or like, fuck, I'm really glad I'm not dead right now. That kind of shit. Am I allowed to swear, by the way? Doesn't matter. Okay. That's sort of like I had all this stuff, this material to draw from. I had like these characters I had met, people that I had like the Carlos, the boat captain, absolutely a real person. 100%. If you met him, you'd be like, holy shit, that's Carlos. And there's all of these people that I had in my surround, like, I guess in my sort of ether is like I can just sort of grab this person there, and like all the people I've known in my home life as well, they're all sort of in there. So it's just I had a lot to draw from, and that's sort of why I think it feels maybe to you like it's authentic. It's because those are all just like little mosaics all put together of things that were real, right?
Yeah, and that's the other thing I love so much about it is the authenticity of the people. There was a time where I forget what I was doing in the morning. I had thought about one of your characters, and then I had to remind myself that's a fictitious person. They don't exist because the characters were so relatable. The experience was like a boys' trip that I could relate to so much going on, the fun or the bad decisions, all the above. But I know you mentioned a little bit about that, but can you talk more about how you made it real and the conversation and dialogue real?
Well, first of all, thank you. You just dropped my blood pressure a little bit because, like I said, I'm so close to it that I can't make a serious objective call on whether any of it's any good. And so people have been saying nice things like that, but to hear you say that is like astonishing. So I think what it's probably going to come back to all of the things that I've always just seen. Like I've just been around people, and then also just the media that I've consumed. I remember being a kid and watching like Entourage, for instance, and those guys were just busting each other's balls all the time. And that became, I don't know, I guess it's a New York thing, but I just was like, it's an interesting interactive, it's a sort of interesting way to interact with one another as like friends. It's like we show each other care and respect by torching each other all day long. So I thought that Logan and Fern would be a good mantle for that. Those two are the best of friends, but they're so comfortable with each other that they just tear each other apart all the time. And they're like, yeah, they're cantankerous, both the pair of them, mostly Fern. So a lot of people have mentioned that. Like I got a Fern in my life. That guy, it's like he's the best, but he's the worst. I just can barely stand being around him, but I miss him when I'm not with, so that kind of stuff was coming forward. So that was, I don't know that I had a goal because again, I'm a rookie in this situation. I'm writing dialogue like I would a film or like a scene in a film. So that felt familiar enough, like a touch point that I could use to help leverage and add levity to what would be otherwise maybe some scenes that were lacking a little bit at the beginning. So yeah, cutting back to that idea of like, okay, like interior villa, Fern and Logan walk in and there's this, oh, your villa is better than ours. No, dude, it's the exact same, like that kind of thing. Yeah, so that's sort of, I sort of, dialogue was a bit of a crutch, I think. And I think maybe that's what you're feeling. It's just trying to get into a naturalistic rhythm and things people would really say. There's a lot of emphasis in, I think in film specifically, there's a lot of expository dialogue. There's a lot of people who write to drive the story forward, which you want to do, but you also want to be I think you want to be careful not to create too much of an obvious tack for what you're trying to do with that scene. And a lot of it was just like, let these guys say stupid shit and enjoy it, right? Let the jokes roll, let them have fun. And then the characters, I talk about Jurassic Park a lot. And I always say, like, the only reason, the real reason the first one was amazing was because the characters were so well set up at the beginning that you start caring a lot about what happens to them in this place, right? The consequent, the subsequent Jurassic Parks, they didn't do that. They just did big explosions and dinosaurs flying all over the place, and you didn't care as much. But in this case, it was like I cared about all the characters in that movie, that the special effects of the dinosaurs were like the icing on the cake. It wasn't the whole thing, right? So anyways, I tried to sort of look at it that way. Like, how do I make you resonate and actually feel the pulse of these guys and feel like you're next to them on this boat or in this, in this villa or whatever?
Yeah, you're right. And I think of someone like Tarantino as a director. You might cut to a scene and they're talking about something that has nothing to do with the story, nothing to do with the plot, but it's authentic, it's real, it's not exposition, it's not forced exposition, it's not wasted time, wasted words. When you are setting out to write, and there's probably a lot of uncertainty going, what's the next step? What the hell do I do right? What the hell do I write next? But you do have a background in storytelling. How did your time behind the camera help you frame and shape the story?
Well, yeah, I think storytelling is storytelling when you cut down to the real core of it. Um, I think in film specifically, there's a real tendency to not let the story and the scene be what it needs to be. There's a lot of like over directing, I would call it. And I think the same can likely be said for writing. I don't know if to the same degree I'm a bit more in tune with the film industry, but I always said like, or I've always thought to myself that the person watching the film's imagination is 10 times better than the special effects that you can create or the scene that you're trying to shoot. So like with that being said, it's like you have all this room, this like breath between what you're showing and what the audience is doing with what they're seeing. And the same I feel goes with writing. Again, I'm not claiming to know much about the literary field specifically, but in my imagination of what I was doing, it was like don't over describe, but give ingredients, set the table so that they can take what you're saying, allow their imagination or allow whatever they're thinking about, whatever they've experienced. Like it's all a mathematical equation in their head, right? So it's like I talking about him in the cab. You don't know what the reader's been through. So they're going to have all kinds of stuff that they're going to be pulling from. And so let it be, I guess, let there be air between the words. And I think, I feel like that's maybe the main thing that I think I pulled. The other thing that the other part of it, I think, is just the descriptions trying to feel or not trying to feel, but feeling cinematic, because that's sort of another place where I spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to make something look a certain way. I feel that translated, or at least it seems like it's translated over a little bit, because a lot of the feedback I've had is they use the word cinematic, and so um, I guess it's just enough description, just enough like mentioning the way that the light feels, or the way that the room is lit, or the way that the jungle sounds, or whatever is. It really allows the reader to sort of be in that place, and they know that the jungle's there. They can feel it when they're reading it, and so that was the thought, at least. Whether or not it was accomplished in the right way is up to the reader. But I feel like that was the thinking. It's just like how do I employ the most powerful tool that I have, which is the viewer or the reader.
Well, you've mentioned that Carried Away was written over the course of 6 years across coffee shops, coastlines,
Mhm.
moments of creative obsession, probably a lot of it on your phone, probably in airports, probably a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Bouncing around, I think, can sometimes hinder creativity if you don't have that like set up the way you need. But at the same time, I think maybe the different views, different aspects can foster creativity. So it's a little bit of both. How are you able to
Mm.
adapt without writing in one central location? And do you think the variety of locations, do you think that helped you, or do you think it hindered you? Just talk about the process.
I think the process was no process in a way, because I'm not like coming from a long history of doing this. So I mean, there was fun. There was days when I'd just go, I don't know, a lot of the time. So during the pandemic, it was really tough because I feel creativity is somewhat sort of like uh, smothered when you're feeling not great. And I think everybody on earth at that point in time, although I have heard that there's a ton of COVID authors that have come out of the woodwork. But I couldn't really write during that time frame. I just felt way too, I don't know, I felt like totally clenched up. But when I was in Costa Rica, which is where a lot of this was written, or where I was in Mexico, or even in Toronto, and sometimes in Toronto, I would just open the thing up, and I felt like the only way to do it, because between film projects, I have a lot of time. So it's like I would just sit there and I'd be like, I don't feel like writing today, but I would open the thing up and I would sort of read what I wrote last day, and I would say, oh man, that's terrible, or oh, that's pretty funny, or whatever. And I was there was days where I'd be like, I'm just going to write a haiku that's totally off color or whatever, or I'm going to write a line or a piece of dialogue that I think would be inappropriate or stupid or just something to entertain myself, because I felt like what would happen is if I could just get myself to relax, um, or something, or maybe just give myself a chance to enjoy what I was doing, it would help. But yeah, the process was zero process. Go in there, open the laptop, no matter what. A lot of the time I'd go surfing in the morning, because a lot of this was written when I was in the South, in Central America. So I'd wake up early and I'd go surf, and I'd come home. I'd carry my laptop over to the coffee shop in Nosara a lot of the time, and sometimes Santa Teresa, and I would just sit there and I'd read, and then I would just try to write. And yeah, I don't know, man. It's like I'm just as surprised as anyone would be that I got this done, and it did take a long time, like you said. I think it's 6.5 years, something like that, before I was like, okay, the first draft is done, which was hilarious because it was like 115,000 words. It was like a Lord of the Rings level manuscript, but yeah. So then that was that. But yeah, it was really. I think the main thing was just open it up, open the file up, look at it, and see where that takes you. And that was that was the one sort of common thread between all of the days where I actually wrote,
The main character is always talking about connecting with nature, the importance of being in nature, especially for one who's stuck in a concrete jungle with oppressive rent, $8 coffees. I mean, you've got me falling in love with the outdoors just with this conversation, but also reading the book. Why are the outdoors so impactful for you?
Because I don't think that you can silence biology. And I don't think that we're evolved over the last 100 or 200,000 years to sit in a condo and to collect furniture it feels like we've been castrated in some ways. And I think the convenience that what's that saying? The road to hell feels like heaven, and the road to heaven feels like hell. So going into the gym or having to hunt, whatever the case may be, that's the hell, but it gets you to the heaven, right? Because you can't enjoy a healthy and balanced life if all you do is sloth around and, the 7 deadly sins kind of thing. So I think when I was writing this, a little bit of the Fight Club sort of paradox came up. I don't know if you felt that at all, but so he's in, I don't know, he's in his house collecting IKEA furniture, thinking that that's the path to enlightenment, fulfillment, or whatever. And it's almost like a biblical story. He needs to be like Abraham and get out into the world, because another saying is like, a boat's always safe at port, but that's not what a boat's for. So you're just sort of condensing and compressing your 100,000 years of instinct to sit in this sterility of modern life that's convenient and safe and takes away 99% of all of the worries that you might normally have. But you go crazy a little bit. And I think most people who have done that and they watch Netflix every night, they go to this office job and they do the thing that they must do. And then they just get stuck in this sort of loop. It's like the Alan Watts thing. It's like you get the house near the place that you work so you can go to the work, so you can afford the house that you bought, so you can have the car that gets you to the workplace, all just so that you can create this eternal cycle of what am I really doing here? I'm feeding this monster. So I've always had that feeling. I've always been a freelance filmmaker and seen people that I'm really close with that are in their office every day and they're totally miserable. And I think that's why nature becomes the totem for sanity in this, because he feels it. He's like, what am I doing? Dude, I went out and I paid $8 for coffee. I went to my job. Like you said, and I came home and I went to bed. Like, this is not why I'm here. Is there something, am I missing something? Like, there has to be more to life. There has to be meaning that I'm not living right now. And so that's where Cole's at when he gets there. He's been on surf trips, but when you're 30 or 29 and you have a cool job in New York and you're like making good money, it feels like something that's maybe transient and it's developing you. At 36, which is when Cole gets to the Mentawai Islands, he's like, this isn't funny anymore. This is just now my life. It's not my like cool new gig. This is just actually me. And so he gets there with a different attitude. And for those who have heard of or been to or seen anything related to the Mentawai Islands, they're basically the most unbelievably remote and fantastic location to go surfing that there maybe is. Like, I don't think you can get more remote than that. I don't know that you can get less safe than there. And so he's there and he's like, this is where I need to be to figure out what I'm doing, I guess.
What is the Sungai Watch and why is it important to you?
For everyone's life in totality, it's the ocean is sort of the mother that keeps planet Earth going. And we've been doing a hell of a job filling it with plastic and trash and allowing it to become like a wasteland. So they're these really cool core grassroots fighters who just basically decided without anyone's help or permission or funding, they're just going to go and start cleaning up these river systems in Indonesia that are filled with plastic and garbage. Apparently, a lot of what happens in the inlands of Indonesia is people will dump their trash down hills or whatever. So anyways, it rains, it ends up in these river systems and it goes out to sea where it ends up on beaches and in the ecosystem. So these guys, I mean, Gary, who I think is like the main dude, he just sort of started. He put hip waders on and started cleaning. And then he started filming it and it's just sort of developed. And I was like, these guys they're just cowboys. It's amazing. And now there's 150 people that are fighting that fight every day. They put these like amazing, they're like these gates that they've put up on all the riverways to stop it from actually flowing into the ocean. But it's making a huge impact. And it's like, how better, or what better a cause is there than that, especially with the book being set in Indonesia and also it being so central on the central focus being nature and being the ocean. It's like, how could I not, right? So that was the impetus for that, was just, I got to do something to help this guy. I've been following him for a long time and I've just been like, bravo, man. Like, it's amazing. It's like no permission was asked. You just went and did it. And you didn't care if anyone came and helped. You just went out and did it. I think that's like the most commendable thing that you could do as a human.
Last question, and by all means, plead the fifth if you need to, but in your life, have you ever mistaken the light of the moon for an extraterrestrial object?
Can I ask you a question first?
By all means.
Actually, I want to ask you a couple questions. Like, okay, can you walk me through that scene a little bit? Just how you perceived it and what it felt like for you?
I'll give you one word that best describes it. Jealousy. I wanted to be in that situation at that time.
Okay, so this is pretty funny. Again, this is pulled from the well of things that had happened. So
yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about, the authenticity. This isn't your 8th grade English teacher writing a story about Indonesia. This is someone who's lived it, and I tell. And so when I'm reading these parts, I'm like, that makes sense. This is real. This is happening. And you know what? It sounds awesome, and I wish I was there.
So that exact situation played out. We did some magic mushrooms, like quite a lot, I think, maybe. And it wasn't in Indonesia. It wasn't in the tropics even. It was somewhere in northern Ontario. And I was with a couple friends, and we were at a bonfire in this field, we were on a lake somewhere, and there was like a big lawn. And I wandered away with one of my friends. It was just a buddy of mine. Actually, one of my friends who's deaf. So we couldn't speak to each other. When it's dark, it's hard to do sign language with each other. So I was experiencing this with a friend who, it wasn't really a sounding board, but we were walking on the lawn, just kind of tripping out. And we saw this giant thing on the grass. And we're like, it was so vivid and so real. And like, it felt almost 3-dimensional, but it was flat. And it took us, we walked up to it, like with a lot of trepidation. It was this huge feather-shaped being, and I can promise you I've never been more like surprised by how gullible I felt. I walked up when I was within like inches of this thing, and I'm like, what is this? Like, what could possibly be on this lawn? And it was literally before I put my hand over it and the light of the moon hit my hand and created a handprint below it. And I like jumped back and I was like, oh my God, it's a light beam. It's just like, I mean, I'm like, hopefully no one was watching that. That was rather embarrassing. But I thought, what a cool scene and what a funny experience to have happen when they're doing this MDMA thing on this Snake Island party. Yeah, just felt like a scene that was worth pulling in.
I have two requests. One is that you continue to write because you've lived a very fun, very full life already. And I know you have many, many, many stories to tell. So I want you to continue to do that. So that's my first request. Is please write another fiction book. And my second one is that at some point, we cross paths and you teach me how to surf because that's one thing I don't have in my cap yet. So that's my second.
I think you should come down and well, I had a question. So of the book, well, I'll come back to that. In the book, did you have any characters that you really specifically liked the most, or thought resonated the most with you, or was intrigued, or you were intrigued by the most?
Not necessarily, but I think again the strength was just their interactions between each other.
So if you ever find yourself in Costa Rica, Nosara, Costa Rica specifically, real Carlos lives there. He's about the best person you'll ever meet. Maybe. I met that guy and I was like, this guy is like in any other situation, this guy would have legions of, like, he'd have disciples. Like he's the happiest, most friendly, and most exuberant person you've ever met. And when I met him, he had this hilarious mustache. And I was like, dude, or maybe it was the second year. I went back and I think I had met him, and I had met him the one year. I went back the next year. He had this insane mustache. And I was like, dude, what? It looks so cool. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, I'm trying to be like Salvador Dali. I love his look. And I was like, but all of the misstepping of his like broken English is exactly how he talks in real life. But yeah, if you're ever down there, you let me know. I'll link you guys up. He's like the best, and he'll hook you up with some good food and take you surfing. And I'll be down there this winter. So if you find the itch coming up to get into the tropics, let me know. Get out there.
I know you and I will definitely stay in contact in our lives.
Yeah,
Best of luck on everything else, because I know you've got a lot coming up.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you having me. I really appreciate you reading it, taking the time to actually like take it in and
which, by the way, I'm so surprised. I'm so surprised that not everybody reads it. Like, you have to read it if you're going to tackle it.
Well, thanks, man. I'll take your endorsement and run with it. But yeah, thank you so much, man. It means a lot to me to be here, and let's see what happens.
And go Blue Jays.
Go Jays. All right. See you soon. All right, bye.
Carried Away will be released November 11th. And for more information, check out readcarriedaway.com. Everyone has a story. Each person a scholar. Thank you for listening. Fill up that passport. I'll see you on the road. A bientôt.